I'm Dr. Craig Escude, the host of IDD Health Matters, a podcast where we talk about health, wellness, and health equity for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Hope you enjoy it. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the IDD Health Matters podcast. Our guest today is Amy Fox. Welcome, Amy.
Thanks.
So, Amy, we had an opportunity to meet not too long ago at a conference in Arlington, Virginia, and I was fascinated by the work that you do. So give us a little background about the work that you do and how you came into this field.
Sure. Yeah, I've been in the disability space for about 15 years now. We founded LearningQ, which is an online learning platform for learners with IDD, about 4 years ago. And we are a mission-driven company in that we want to make learning more accessible. And I've been a big fan of lifelong learning for a very long time. I think the disability space in general has an opportunity to improve some of the choices that learners have access to. And so we built the platform through some funding we had received through Small Business Innovation. And we've created close to 6 or 7 hours worth of content on a variety of topics, from living independently to health and wellness and even workforce development. So we've had some time to kind of test a few different content pieces with a variety of audiences. Yeah.
So you've already said so many things I want to explore a little bit further. And the first one is lifelong learning. I think, that's something good for everyone. And I believe sometimes if we think we have already learned everything we need to know, then we shut our minds off to new things. So I'm a big proponent of never really being an expert, but always becoming an expert in whatever it is your interest is. I think that's a great approach. And the other thing I want you to talk a little bit more about is you mentioned that this training is really geared towards people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, right?
That's right. So one of the things we felt was imperative in the content that we created was to utilize and leverage microlearning. And what that provides for learners with intellectual and developmental disabilities is kind of a short snippet of education, of skill building. What it also provides is a very flexible way to go back to that learning again and again and again. So you've got this opportunity to repeat content in a simple, easy, accessible fashion. Because what I think all of us know and understand is you might learn something one day and forget it 2 months later. And isn't it nice if you can go back and relearn that skill again? So that was kind of how we built the platform. We called it a coach in your pocket, so to speak, in that what we've seen work well for learners is they can actually, let's say they're getting on a bus and they want to remember, like, how am I going to know where I'm supposed to get off? We've got a lesson on how to read a bus map. Okay. We've got lessons on interviewing skills. We've got lessons on healthy cooking, the kind of topics that can be brought up again and again and again.
So that's what I was going to ask you is some of the topics. So you mentioned cooking, you mentioned how to maybe access public transportation. Tell me more about some of the topics that you cover.
Sure. Yeah, that's been a really fun thing to develop. So we set out in the very beginning to kind of look at these 3 buckets that are integral for living a healthy life. The health and wellness categories, getting a job, which is so important to people, sure, and then living independently. So we kind of have those 3 guidelines within our content. What we also felt was there was a lot of safety that kind of drops in, as you know, with lifelong learning and just with any kind of skill development, safety at home, safety out in the community. So some of the content certifications have supported learners a little bit more, like safety in the kitchen, safety in the community. We've got a police encounters certification that helps individuals understand how to behave if they have a police officer question them about something, what their rights are, things like that. And then we've got a workforce training program that we developed with a partner. We call it the job of getting a job, because there's so many people that want a job, but they don't really understand what's involved with getting a job. And so it's about an hour and a half of content, and the learner goes through about 25 different topics, and they're much more better prepared on creating resumes, sending resumes, doing interviews, things like that. We've got a really fun one that came out recently called self-advocacy, and helping individuals advocate for this themselves, asking questions, solving problems, defining goals, things like that. So we built each certification at about an hour to an hour and a half of content learning, but we also partnered with subject matter experts in the field. So we partnered with people like Project Search and people like Charting the Life course, and some of those programs that have already kind of set the bar high, that we can kind of take their knowledge and roll it into the content that we've created.
So many of these topics you mentioned would be great for everyone. I mean, especially, teenagers who are growing up and young adults and, learning how to do resumes and how to, work, I guess, handle certain situations with law enforcement or whatever it might be. They really sound like they'd be great for everyone.
Yeah. And in fact, it's funny because we did find a lot of crossover space in the social services area, also in some of the at-risk youth area, some of the prison release programs, things like that. Our learners typically are anywhere from 12 to 60 years old.
Okay.
So it really can plug in at a variety of different touch points in a person's life. I think the finance and budget, which, that's a dry topic for anybody.
Right. But important.
But so important, and so some of those topics are, covered in, hey, you want to live on your own. Another one that I really enjoyed creating with some of our advisors was, how do you find a good roommate? Sure. What kind of questions do you ask? What kind of people do you want to live with? Things like that. So it's been a journey. I think from the beginning, we knew we wanted to have kind of an A+ type of content that was really engaging. That had been a goal of ours from the beginning. And I think what we've been able to see in some of our metrics has reinforced that. We've got a 93% engagement rate. So people that start the program finish it. They really like it. Yeah. And then what we're also seeing on average is close to a 50% improvement in skills development. So when you think about an hour of learning and being able to show that kind of growth, it's pretty impressive. We feel like we've been able to achieve some of the goals we set out to do. I think, what we're hoping to do in the future is take this to a wider audience, a deeper audience, more at a state levels to provide access to a wider population of people.
So you mentioned earlier about each certification, I guess, or each course is around an hour to an hour and a half. Are those broken up into smaller pieces, or do you sit there for an hour and watch it?
Yeah, no, they're broken up into smaller pieces. So each video is anywhere from 1 to 2 minutes, and then each video is within a badge. And so each badge is somewhere around 5 or 6 micro units. So like, we were talking about transportation. Well, that's a badge, and it's, ordering an Uber, taking a train, taking a bus, gotcha. That kind of thing, reading a map, stuff like that. So what we've seen is there are some learners that literally will just finish it in one sitting. And then there are other learners that get on the platform 2 or 3 times a week for 4 or 5 weeks. And then they come back in a couple months later and do it again because they want a little refresher course. And I think the beautiful thing about technology these days, and I think we're just beginning to understand it, is if you can get past that initial barrier of trying it, there's a whole lot of opportunity for what can happen. And you know, that was part of our mission from the get-go, was that we saw there was just such a small proportion of people that were being served. And our mission was, you know, we want to make education more accessible.
So right now, how are people, or who are your customers? Are they individuals or family members, or are they provider organizations, or just tell me about that?
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great question. So right now, our model is B2B, which is, you know, we will work with organizations and agencies, other nonprofits in the area. We're starting to get some traction at the state level through VR. We've also
through VR. What do you mean?
Vocational rehab, which is the workforce training. Yeah. We've also got 3 programs running in Tennessee with a Medicaid program called MAPS, which is a super cool training program. I don't know if you're aware of that one, but it's a 3-year training program. Individuals with intellectual disabilities will learn how to live on their own, get a job, advocate for themselves, and it's a 3-year program. When they're finished with the program, $4,000 goes into an ABLE account.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, nice. So it's got a really sweet reimbursement model at the end of it, incentive almost. So we've just started working with that MAPS program. You know, I think ideally in the future, if we really wanted to see success, we would be able to go through families and individuals and be more of a, you know, B2C product. But right now we're going through kind of the established channels.
Yeah, yeah. And you said you'd welcome the opportunity to bring in states to use this program, maybe statewide.
Yeah, so you know, it's interesting because every state is different.
Yes.
You can't follow any rhyme or reason really, other than to use the framework of one state and say, well, this is how Ohio's doing it. Maybe New York can do it the same way. And what's happening right now, as you might know, in the disability space, is a lot of the funding's been cut, and a lot of even the RFPs where the states are looking for new solutions, those have gone by the wayside. The good news is that you've got the rural
health transformation program,
right?
Yes.
So that's on the horizon. That's going to take a couple of years, but I'm feeling very positive about that. And then you also have this existing template called a tech first state. And that's been really helpful too. So, you know, it's knocking on a lot of doors and seeing which door opens.
Sure. And just to let everybody know, because I think there's a lot of potential there, the Rural Health Transformation Program is a federal program that's providing money to states to help them improve healthcare access, to improve the workforce in rural areas in states, in all states really have the opportunity to participate in this. And this really is opening up some opportunities, you know, to ensure that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities get included in this. It's not an IDD specific program by any means. It's general rural health. But those of us who work in this field should be advocating to ensure that some of these funds go to improve the workforce, go to improve healthcare technology for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities who live in these rural parts of America as well. So get out there and advocate. And if you want more information, you can reach out to me or to Amy directly, and I'm sure we can tell you a lot more about it. So Amy, how did you get into this field? Like, what made you decide to move into this space?
Well, it was an interesting journey. I have been involved with therapeutic riding for a very long
Ah,
time, ever since I was about 12 years old. And I volunteered with some therapeutic riding programs. I taught, um, and it's been a lifelong kind of partnership that I've had with horses and the experience that anybody can have
hmm,
with equine healers. Um, and from there, I had a background in education already. And so I was able to start looking a little more closely at some of the projects that I wanted to do in the disability space. And then we were really blessed to have a son. Our oldest son, Emmett, has Down syndrome, and he's now a senior in college at George Mason, but he was born 22 years ago, and that really kind of solidified in my mind, that I really wanted
yeah.
to stay in this space and to keep it as a part of my life. So,
So I had the opportunity to meet Emmett and hear him
oh, that's
speak
right.
at
That's
the
right.
conference,
That's
and
right.
he is just a phenomenal young man. He
Thank
was a
you.
pleasure to talk
Thank
with.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He
So
enjoyed it. Hmm.
yeah, it was great. So Amy, if people want to learn more about what you do, how do they find you?
So, thank you for asking that. Right now, probably the easiest way is to go to our website, learningq.org. We have a couple grants going right now, which provides free access to our content. Um, it's got a lot of information there. It's got a lot of examples of the types of videos that we've created. It's got the different certifications. We've got 8 different certifications posted there. And then we've got 2 grants that are going right now as well. So
Excellent.
all of it can be found on the website, and you can reach out directly to me as well at afox@learningq.org too.
So LEARNING
Q.
Q, the letter Q.
That's right.
All right, not like QUE. Okay, gotcha.
No, no. Yeah.
Great,
That's
great. .com, right?
.org.
.org. Okay,
Learningq.org.
learningq.org.
Yeah.
All
Hmm.
right. I'm Dr. Craig Escude, President of Intellectability. State developmental disability agencies, managed care organizations, and providers across the United States use Intellectability's health risk screening tool, e-learn courses, and person-centered training to improve health equity for people with IDD. Visit replacingrisks.com to learn more about how you can employ these tools with people you support. So, Amy, I always ask guests to tell us 3 things, 3 tips, 3 words of wisdom, 3 things you'd like to share with everyone that you think can improve health and wellness or the world of supports and services for people with IDD. So,
Oh,
what are your thoughts?
so if I had to pick my top 3, um, I would probably put inclusiveness at the top. I think it's so important to have settings and situations and communities that are open to mixing it up with people that have disabilities and people that don't have disabilities. Because the truth of the matter is, we all have something that gives us a challenge, right? So,
Right.
more inclusive communities. I think more access to learning is just one of my key pieces, as we talked about with lifelong learning. Um, and what would my last one be? My last one would probably be that hope springs eternal. And I have always believed that there is a choice, a process, an option, an opportunity that's out there. You just have to find it.
That's excellent. So we've got communities, community involvement, education, and hope, which does spring eternal. Amy, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, for the great work that you do in this field. And everybody, check it out, learningq.org.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Amy.
Craig. It was great.
The IDD Health Matters podcast is a production of Intellectability. Learn more about our health risk reduction tools and training for supporters of people with IDD by visiting replacingrisk.com.